The time when Russians will say, yeah, go and join the EU, whatever you want, is also gone. And obviously neutral status, that's it. And of course, recognition of the realities on the ground. And the realities on the ground that Ukraine will lose more territories. It already lost more territories. Russians control very substantial chunks of Sumy Oblast. They already in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. So it's, yeah, same old. And that's why I don't even pay attention to those negotiations. And those negotiations have been imposed on Zelensky by Trump. Whatever Trump uses, blackmail or whatever, what have you. And just again, it's primarily PR. Russia says, sure, let's communicate. Here's a memorandum. Here are demands. Do you want to adhere to those demands? No? Bye-bye. So the only thing they primarily discuss there is the humanitarian issues, such as the bodies exchange, of taking POWs, returning, things of this nature. But strategically, how you do not talk to puppet. It's not serious. And that's what Trump doesn't understand. He's not very bright, as it turned out to be. He thinks that by creating this diplomatic hustle, all foreign ministers go out, this Turkish guy, or whatever the name of him, he's talk about that, oh yeah, we need to reach this, and it's really rinse, gargle, speed, repeat, and same old each time. Nothing changes, except for Russian ground situation on the ground in former Ukraine, period. And Berlin evidently lived too long in under peaceful conditions, but that's what Germans want. They want their revenge. So it's a complex issue, but that's what is happening right now. And they're getting prepared for this on their own, because obviously they are incompetent people. They do not understand how war works. They will not learn anything because they actually swallowed hook, line, and sinker the Ukrainian propaganda. They think that, oh, look at this, Russians barely moving. They lost 100 million people. The Ukrainians shoot down Kinzhals and hypersonics each time. So yeah, they believe this because they are incompetent people. Their military education is a joke. British or German. Did you see there's new inspector general, who's chief of general staff? He looks like Goebbels, but Goebbels was pretty bright, evil but bright. This guy is dumb as a stump, and that's who those people are. And at some point of time, they will decide to strike Russia, which they will. And Russians will respond in kind, but this will be responding at the centers of the making decisions. In this particular case, it's Reichstag probably should go once and for all. And that's what is happening. There are some certain group of the imbeciles from London, and they think the solution is somehow is going to, be more, cooperative on this. Yeah, sure, the guy is a butcher. He is not very bright, but sure, they can play with those figures. Again, you have to understand, average Washington's or London strategists, so to speak, the only thing they can do is basically the personalities. They shuffle personalities. They do not understand what policy is. Policy, not politics. There's a tremendous difference between politics and the policy. And so none of them is capable. If you look at all those think tanks, all those advisory boards, all those national security councils, these are amateurs. They never encountered any kind of the serious event in their life, such as the scale of the special military operation, and they go back to what they did always. We remember that actually British, Churchill especially, were promoting Charles de Gaulle tremendously during World War II, to the point that Charles de Gaulle actually complained that, you know what, I'm being marketed as that piece of soap. So that's the quote. He was like, and the same is happening here. They think that, yeah, somehow they can put this guy somewhere in the position of power in Ukraine and something is going to change. Nothing is going to change. Strategically, these idiots who are becoming paupers, their cities smell with urine, they have their third world and Sharia law imposed on the parts, and that's who they are. It's ridiculous, okay? And that's when I say that United States lost the arms race. It lost it by a mile. I'm not exaggerating, probably by 2 miles. And in terms of missile weaponry, it's nowhere near Russia. It's not even funny. It's not even fair to compare the capabilities and arsenal. And when you look attentively at Russian missile arsenal, and you will see yourself that, my God. And in terms of artillery, I'm not going to go there too. And there are other things which require a very, so to speak, focused special conversation about them. For example, Tor M2, although it has now extended capabilities, it is essentially what used to be the army or troop air defense. This thing just runs together with you, with your, say, battalion column. You can have a couple of those complexes which are there. They can shoot while moving, which is very interesting thing. They have the range of up to, today, I believe it's up to 14 kilometers, and the elevation of up to 7 to 8. They can certainly shoot the aircraft, but primarily they are good at the shooting all kinds of the drones, and of course the things like cruise missiles, especially low-flying objects, are just something absolutely everybody admires and everybody praises, and that's narcissism. And as the result, if you listen, I introduced this in my blog. Candice DeLong, famous FBI profiler, she also was for many years one of the anchors of the number of the crime shows, especially with the really twisted character, not some kind of garbage. Oh yeah, he came in and killed. No, she with the describing the psychological profile, the portrait of people, both of the victim and usually the killer, the murderer, and she spoke about this, about narcissism. That at some point of time, they begin to live in that alternative universe. Because for them to accept reality is to essentially collapse. They just probably will have the complete mental background and then the serious psychiatric disorder. And Trump is the exhibit A of this. And as the result, the more his age progresses, and the more he probably gets the real situation on somebody probably should be delivering him that. For example, Tulsi Gabbard, maybe, they say, yeah, we got our ass kicked in Ukraine. Yeah. And somebody has to tell him that no matter how United States tries to do anything, it cannot ramp up anything to even reach the, again, let me put it this way. Russia produces, in terms of the high precision weapons and smart standoff weapons. So then, of course, the Panzer already has a much longer range, and they have the arsenal with the what's called the missile, which is it's called Nail. It's very cheap, but it's very effective against drones. And of course, they have the regular missile, which operates up to 30 kilometers now. So that's already pushing it, but it's short range. Middle range, such as Buk M3, they already go to 70, 80 kilometers, and they can shoot pretty much most of it. But of course, the monsters are such as S-400 and 9N68 missile, especially if it's used there. It can shoot down targets in excess of 400 kilometers. And some of those planes, which the Ukrainian Air Force lost, they could have been shot down by S-400, not to speak about, obviously, Su-57 or Su-35, which carry hypersonic R-37 with 400-kilometer range. German culture, as in general, Western European culture, is highly conformist, so it's very easy to manipulate them. And again, they voted for that. And the only people who evidently have some survival instincts left for them are in former GDR. Because Soviets never killed the Germanness of Germans there. They obviously feed them into their, so to speak, socialist framework, socialist mode of production. But there was a German culture. There was always praise of the German culture, ranging from great composers to philosophers and things of this nature, literature, what have you. In West Germany, it's completely different now, and they vote time after time to people who screw them over, and yeah, they are basically, they're mentally unstable people. And then scratch the German. I know it shouldn't be the broad brush painted over the broad brush, but yeah, it's true. Scratch the German, you'll get the EDSS officer. Look at the elite. They are all relatives of EDSS or Wehrmacht. And their phrase of Zhukov to Marshal Rokossovsky in Berlin. People say it never happened, but actually some say that they heard it. It did happen, some sources which have been close to them, that Zhukov stated to Rokossovsky, we liberated them from, and they will hate us for this. But he managed to, by BSing people again, to get to the office. But then again, look at the quality of the US presidents. Starting the last president who was a president, you may disagree with him, was George H.W. Bush Sr. And after that, what do we have? Free Willy, probably pedophile, Clinton. Then we have Dummy W. Neocons. We have Obama, who screwed up country so badly, and instead of addressing serious economic problems, he just made other people who actually precipitated this crisis, he made them even richer. So then you have Trump, and then we have Biden. Look at this. It's a panopticon. It's a circus figures. And it was Clinton who was presiding over the signing law of the Proposition 4444 of the ascendance of China to World Trade Organization, essentially the vacuum cleaner, which legally, after Congress passed it, legally sucked out practically most of the industries to China. And that's when it all started in earnest. And you look at this, good Lord, why don't we ask Ronald McDonald to be the next president? At least, you know what, he may lower the prices on the Big Mac in McDonald's. That's about it. Will not harm you any more than what those people are doing. And yeah, that's the result. Narcissism is not a bug, but the feature of Washington, D.C. And this goes for Europeans too. It's complete loss of the trust in the institutions. And when you have even, it's not left, it's BS. The Democrats are not left, they're just globalist neoliberal party. But even when some of them say this must stop, you voted for those people. You voted for pedophiles all your life. And there are all on both sides in Republican and Democrat party. Look at the Congress, good Lord. They're creep upon creep sitting there. We know they're corrupt. They are blackmailed, most likely by Israel. Look at Lindsey Graham. The guy is the moral freak. I mean, but fine people of South Carolina continue to elect this idiot. And what can I say? Yeah, it's collapse. It's basically disintegration of the political system. With it, it's actually the disintegration of the governance. Nobody can govern this country anymore effectively. It's not moving anyway. It's just there's an inertia. Good, fine people on the ground here. They're doing their thing. They go to work. They work and produce some value, some of them at least. So they pay taxes, and that's about it. The rest of it, it's the other disgusting political theater, which is built around the most vile, the most criminal thing you can possibly think. Civilization, which throws its children at the altar of perversion, certainly doesn't have the right to exist. And this is what is happening. It's imploding. These are the guys who are running the country. And guess what Afghanistan is? Afghanistan is very interesting, so to speak, entrance to the Eurasian subcontinent, if you wish. And Indians were operating in Afghanistan for a while, too. That may help and swing Indians, depending on how you approach whatever would be developed there, in favor of BRICS, obviously. But India has one thing which is very serious for India. It's weapons and technology. And this is primarily Russian. They buy all kinds of things, including this famous, utterly corrupted deal with Russia, and which was oh my God, that thing is epic, so many years. But what can I say? They are tricky, and they may say today one thing, and then they will change their opinion. But you know what? I'm not obviously a Russian diplomat. I obviously do not pretend to be the specialist in India. But from what I heard, and I know some Indians, there are many of those Indians whom I know, they say that no, we still have a very good relationship with Russia. We really view Russia as our ally. And so that might play the role in the final decision of India, which will continue to play both sides. Make no mistake. They will try to avoid taking sides as long as possible. Trump obviously we have to consider his mental state. And we know he's an extreme narcissist. And yeah, especially like you said, all those missiles, which do not exist. He invents them like as he goes. Slower missiles and higher speed, high velocity missile, whatever the he's talking about. But no, Europeans are brainwashed, most of their population anyway. I'm not saying that all of them are, but most, majority. And it's classic Europe. Europe wants war with Russia. because obviously their elites, they can see how the power is slipping through their fingers, and they're whipping their constituents, whipping up into this frenzy. Mr. Lavrov talks about frenzy. It's a Russia-hating frenzy. Europe wants war. It will get a war. And we have to say it now openly that there will be what we would call war. Those idiots, considering what you consider their armed forces, and which are pathetic, honestly, and their military industry, which is also pathetic. But they still believe that they somehow can gather those armies, they can draw all those kinds of their European youth, march against Moscow, because Russians, those subhumans, that's how majority of population of Europe looks, of youth Russians, sit on those more than third of the world resources. Obviously, by definition, Europeans have to have them. They don't understand that it's 2025, it's not 1939. The Obama administration was an organized crime group, which was also in DNC, and anybody who had half brain functional, even 1% of the brain functional in 2016, 2017 already knew. It was a complete spectacle, and it's, oh, hello, it took what, 10 years almost 10 years to figure this out. Everybody knew it. Everybody knew that it was sabotage, it was the state, high treason, it was the against constitution. The question here is, yeah, they present it as if we didn't know that. Who is gonna answer? Trump again BS's public that Obama should go behind bars, which he should actually, including with those DNC creeps. No, he will do nothing again. It's just all about this political theater. They're throwing the bone to MAGA crowd, which obviously is very dissatisfied with how United States is a slap bitch of Israel and how it is controlled by Israel and Trump administration and Epstein file. So the country, the political system, which is infested with the pedophiles and foreign intel assets, and which cannot defend its own children, make your own conclusions. What kind of country is that? I've lived in the United States for more than 30 years. It used to be a different country. I do not recognize this country anymore. And this is probably one of the symptoms, not symptoms, indications of the collapse, which is already happening. And yeah, it's implosion. Look what happened in 30 years. They destroyed everything, stole everything, so they robbed everything, and there you go. So it's not that big of a deal. And there is hysteria in Kiev. I need to read it completely on this article. That's why I had to subscribe to this rag. You cannot even use it as the toilet paper, the New York Times. But even they just published something which talks about relatively objectively about what they try to do in Kursk, especially against the civilians. So there's a hysteria, obviously, and they probably understand. Zelensky understands that he was in this position for a long time now. He is, as you can see yourself, he is not normal mentally, and he knows probably, or if he doesn't know, he definitely senses that he's a dead man walking, and it's just a matter of how he will be offed, either just politically or politically and physically, because obviously Washington is interested now it's all legerdemain on part of Trump administration, because they still exercise this idea that they can somehow change the outcome. They can't. But the only thing they can do, because they're not very bright people in Washington, let alone in London, is that, oh, maybe we have to change this SOB to substitute with the other SOB who would follow our instructions. Strategic aim, and nothing will come out of it again except for some movement here and there in terms of the humanitarian issues, because the Russian said, Peskov stated, yeah, at some point of time, the summit between Putin and Trump will be needed, but not until huge job is done in preparing, because just to meet for the office, Putin is not going to waste his time just making any kind of the handshakes with Mr. Trump. And Trump cannot be trusted anyway. Russians know who Trump is. So it's all fodder for media who repeat same old, oh, he said, we want peaceful settlement. Okay, they said it last time too. And they said it yesterday and day before yesterday. And everybody says that. And nothing changes except for Russian. It's not offensive. Russia is just moving there. You can call it offensive, obviously, but it's a steady movement to the west. And so we have now Konstantinov, about to be invested completely. And so, yeah, just talking points for the talking heads who have no clue anyway about any kind of the strategic issues, real strategic issues. So the trauma of being absolutely demolished by the Red Army, it never went away. And yeah, then NATO, yeah, first, NATO, all NATO doctrines have been written by Wehrmacht officers, Wehrmacht generals. And of course, it was used essentially to turn Germany into what it is today by the West. And Germany is the first candidate of the European country to be basically, I don't know what's going to happen. I know militarily what's going to happen. I know what it will take to do this. But Germany is essentially lost. And German nation, as we know it, is essentially no more, except for those fanatics in Berlin, and most of them anyway, be them from Christian Democratic Union or SPD, it doesn't really matter. Grüne, they are fanatics and they are globalist party, and most of them, they do not understand the war. They don't understand how it all works. The only thing they know is how to perpetuate this suicidal agenda, cultural agenda, which also, yeah, I would say it's cultization of the nation. And yeah, German people can continue to drink beer and go watch their football matches in Bundesliga, and that's about the level of they need. They're cattle, basically. So I know it sounds very insulting, but there are people in Germany, Germans who understand what is happening, who suffer because of that, and who try to do something about it. They are minority. And U.S. missiles and yeah, it's just, and you know what? It's the guy probably thought that the parade, the humiliation of the US Army, which was absolutely, he shouldn't have done this to his armed forces, then the whole world laughed at it. And he thought that it was great. You cannot change it. You cannot bring the guy who is essentially showman and New York real estate shyster. He is, and who is not very good businessman. He was declaring his bankruptcies left and right, and if not for his father's money, he probably would have been already in some kind of jail or what have you. But yet, here we are. He wouldn't understand the difference. And it's not only him. The whole establishment is like that. They are infested with the narcissists and people who have no clue, including US military. Pentagon, those generals, it's laughable. And okay, what can I say? We had our circus performance yet again. We'll probably have many more in coming months. One of those critical traits of the narcissist, especially such an extreme case of Trump, is that those people, narcissism is a worse side of the complex of inferiority. He probably senses it, but because he's narcissist and he constantly have to reassert himself by at some point of time inventing things which are not there. He cannot live without it. He always needs to be the top dog.